philosophy, then men had to make quick decisions. So that ability to make quick decisions, I think, is favorable to men. But women, on the other hand, when it comes to a balanced equation of assessing where we are, needs, filling the needs, in some ways we multitask better than men do.
One of the examples they're giving, there are women who invest for you and there are men who invest for you. Now, men take a lot of chance with your money. This last time on the meltdown, men lost 47% of their investors' money, whereas women only lost 35%. When it came to making money, women made more money than men. The returns were 9% compared to 5.82% of men. So women seem to have a less risk-taking ideas, whereas men have testosterone and they run with the risk and, lose money.
Well, it's kind of like, the hotter you burn, the quicker you flame out sometimes, right? So I think women have a steadier approach, less risky, but ultimately maybe better from a long-term perspective. But I do find that statistic very interesting.
There's another compliment rating. Women nowadays number as many as men driving big rigs. Well, in the big rigs, they're saying the 77.3% of the fatality injured drivers were male because men more often take risks like driving drunk and speeding. Women are safer drivers, too.
Well, that shouldn't surprise anyone. Although, you do occasionally hear women doing crazy things on the road, but I think, again, low-risk mentality means fundamentally we do certain things better. And being on the road, again, you might be multitasking. You might be trying to figure out your logistics. Maybe women are better planners in that sense, and they execute according to their plan, where I think men are generally more impulsive. Well, you've heard of the science fair, folks. I remember participating in the science fair when I was in school. Well, now Google, the company, is holding a science fair.
Yes.
And as a matter of
they
fact...
They want to compete with Intel.
Yes, they do, and a lot of companies do this,
yeah.
So I think this is a great idea. But in this particular science competition held by Google, the first place, in fact, it was a sweep by 3 girls in Google Science Fair. 2 of them have Indian-American roots.
Whoa.
Which I think is fantastic. So one of them is Miss Bose. She's 17 years old from Fort Worth, and she did some research to tackle ovarian cancer. And as a matter of fact, she won the grand prize of $50,000, which is pretty spectacular. And then there's Naomi Shaw of Portland, Oregon, who won in the age 15 to 16 category with a study of the effects of air quality on lungs, specifically for people who have asthma. And she did a full-scale research project, 103 test subjects, 24-hour air quality measurements, and so she won. The third girl is of American descent only, Lauren Hodge of Dallastown, Pennsylvania, who won the age 13 and 14 category for research on whether marinades reduce the amount of cancer-causing compounds produced by the grilling of meat. How cool is that? Right? Right? I mean, real stuff.
But it shows a tremendous amount of parenting.
Yes.
Now, I want to tell you a sad story. This is from India. In Bombay, they had a triple bombing. And, of course, 21 people got killed. And our sympathies are with the folks up there. I'm really sad to see this terrorism, not only in India, but other countries
in
like
Norway.
Oslo.
We saw in Norway what happened.
It was terrible, and they couldn't believe that it was one of their own who did it. Even in India, I don't know if they're coming across the border or these are homegrown. But the sadder part of it is that Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's office sent out a press release. And do you know that it was sent through Hotmail?
Oh, my goodness.
Do you know that in India, much of the federal government works with Hotmail, Gmail accounts? They don't have federal accounts.
That's
Did
amazing.
you know that of 3.1 million employees, only 300,000 people have email accounts?
That's an amazing thing to me because what about the security infrastructure?
That's precisely the point. That's why they're coming after BlackBerries and the others. Hey, look, folks, you got to put your servers here because they don't have the email capacity.
That's amazing to me, considering India produces some of the brain whizzes across the globe to create these networks.
Attorney generals, Air Force generals, Everybody. Because, you know, there is no way they can get an email on their cell phone. And most Indians, like most everybody around the world, like to see their email at any time. But you cannot see your email unless and until you are either a cabinet officer or you have to sit on your desk, on your desktop, to get the email. 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, one email address, and the same passcode.
I would wonder, though, that this situation probably exists not just in India, but in many developing or emerging nations, I should say, because this is basic infrastructure, and clearly India is lagging when it comes to the infrastructure side. I'm surprised, though, that we'd be lagging in this department.
Yeah, 300,000.
IT technology, that's our bread and butter.
It is Ministry of Commerce and Industry sends out inflation data via Gmail.
Unbelievable. I mean, that's not to say that, you know, there aren't built-in security mechanisms on a lot of these platforms. We use them, obviously, for our own personal purposes, but for federal government business, I am shocked.
It is the most amazing story I ever heard. Supreme Court has said they cannot believe anything that comes from the federal government because it does not have a federal government ID. It is Gmail. Anybody could have done that.
They could have spammed it. They could have phished it. They could have done all sorts of things. And this is just, to me, maybe it's an opportunity for a company here, perhaps, that wants to make an investment and maybe sell something to the government of India. I mean, we're buying airplanes and military airplanes. Maybe we should be investing in this front, too.
They are very concerned about security, but as usual, bureaucracy almost anywhere in the world is slow. But this slow, wow.
Well, on that note, I actually have a story that probably makes your point, maybe in a positive way, but makes ultimately your same point. India's leading export, CEOs. That's the headline. That's the headline out of this article, and it's actually quite flattering. You know, it pays a lot of compliments to what's coming out of India, which is the smart, young crop of businessmen that make it to C-level, mid-level, and sometimes the top levels of these positions, and we do well. And it's a trend we know well, folks, right? We see PepsiCo, we see Citibank. We have now lots of companies where we have a Indian or Indian American at the top.
Yeah.
But now they've actually, you know, started to look into what factors and why this happens. And just let me share some numbers here with you. The data suggests Indians are scaling corporate heights. In a study of S&P 500 companies, they found more Indian CEOs than any other nationality except Americans. Indians lead 7 companies. Canadians lead 4. Among the C-level suite executives in the 2009 Fortune 500, there were only